So I'm sure
But you don't have the minutes for it.
Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the City Council of Fort Walton Beach on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. If you have a cell phone, if you'd please turn it off or put it on vibrate, that would be wonderful. This evening, our invocation is going to be Mrs. Melinda Johnson. She's the Student Ministry Youth Director at Trinity United Methodist Church, which is where I go. Melissa's coming in. Christina Shaver, our regular pastor, has a sick child at home, so she's not going to make it this evening. So Melissa volunteered to stand in. Melissa, thank you. Please stand for the invocation, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Melissa, it's all yours.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Like you said, Pastor Christina wasn't able to make it because her son is sick, but I'm happy to step in. I love Fort Walton. I was born and raised here, so thank you for having me. If you would, please bow your heads in prayer. Father God, we just thank you so much for this day. Lord, I thank you for the leaders and community members in this room, and I thank you for the calling that you have placed on their lives and the fact that they said yes to that calling to serve Fort Walton Beach and its people. Lord, I pray that as they work through their agenda and make decisions, that all decisions are made to glorify you. Guide us to be wise stewards of the blessings that you have blessed us with, that you have given us into the beautiful place of Fort Walton Beach. We lift up every single member of our community. Lord, we pray for their safety and that they would know your love and that their leaders love them as well. Help us to be people that do not turn a blind eye to those struggling around us. Help us to always remember that when we serve others, we are serving the one who taught us to serve in the first place. It's your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. Before I ask for an approval of the agenda, I have an amendment to make. We'd like to postpone item 10.1 until the 24th of September. And that's the only change I'm aware of, and if you'll accept that change, I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor, I'll move for approval of the agenda with your amendment. Second.
Been moved by Councilman Allegretto and seconded by Councilman Meade to approve the agenda as amended. Further comment?
No, sir.
Further comment?
No, sir.
Council, please vote. Oh, okay, it is unanimous. We have one councilman missing tonight. Councilman Smith is not with us, so it's 6-0, it passes. Thank you. Next item I have is a proclamation for Constitution Week. Is there anyone here to accept the proclamation? If not, I'm going to read it and I'll give it to the city clerk. Whereas September 17th, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. America's Constitution has guided this country's growth, shaped our progress, and defined us as a nation of fundamental laws and sacred rights. Whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, as well as to recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. Whereas the United States Constitution stands as a testament to the tenacity of the Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, freedoms, and non-forfeitable rights. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Dick Rynearson, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Fort Walton Beach, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2024, as Constitution Week to commemorate America's most important document. And I ask our citizens to reaffirm ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms assured to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. In witness here whereof I have hereto set forth my hand. Thank you. Pass that to Ms. Barnes. Thank you. And now we have recognitions. Mr. Peters, we want to recognize some employees for their years of service.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we do. We've got two This month, we do like to recognize, for those of you that aren't our first time comers to our city council meetings, we'd like to announce our city employees that are here in increments of 5 years, 10, 15, 20. Some years we get up to 30, 35, 40, we've had some 45 before. So we've got tonight we have Chandler Aldrich, 5 years with sewer collections system tech, public works. Chandler. And then somebody take a picture here. We're going to get James got it. Let's get another good one. All right, congratulations, sir. And next 15 years from the Recreation Department, we have Janice Melanchthon. All right, congratulations. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. That will bring us to our consent agenda. May we get a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Cheater, seconded by Councilman Allegretto to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further comments?
Yes, sir.
Comments? Council, please vote. Is it up? It's in. And it does pass unanimously 6-0. Thank you, Council. That'll bring us to item 8, Mayor and Council comments. And tonight we start with Councilman Walker.
Nothing at this time.
All right. Mr. Allegretto.
Yeah, I'll save it for later. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Mr. Berry.
I'll save it for later, thank you.
All right. Mr. Jeter.
I have some for later, but I don't know if Ms. Janice will be here, but I would just like to say, I know Jeff already told you thank you for 15 years, but it's really cool to go to the rec center and see the same smiling faces year in and year out. It means a lot to the kids, and it means a lot to the adults that take their kids up there and know they're safe. So thank you. You're awesome.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Meade.
Same here. Thank you for everything. I know that you've worked with my lovely wife, and you're great as a co-worker and as for what y'all have done for the Parks and Rec Department. So thank you.
I'd like to echo that as well, Ms. Janice. Keep up the great job. Thank you for what you do for all the kids at Parks and Rec. That's all I got for now, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you. And Councilman Smith isn't here, and so I'm last with Janice. A sincere thank you to you as well. I can't believe it's been 15 years, but anyway, it's all been wonderful, and thank you very much. I do want to remind everyone that tomorrow is at 9/11. And if you have a flag at home, please fly it at half-staff in commemoration of that date. And other than that, I'm going to open now for public comments. Anybody wants to present something that is not on the agenda, they can come forward and please limit your speech to 5 minutes or less. Yes, sir, come forward. It's on the agenda, and we can't do it now. Wait till that item comes up. Anyone else with items not on the agenda? Hello there.
James Leibovich, Canterbury Circle, Fort Walton Beach. Mr. Mayor, you told the Northwest Florida Daily News last October that something was missing from your office. You said you were keeping that spot clean. You told the newspaper no dust. I want to make sure, I'm here to check, is there any dust on that spot?
Well, sir, if you saw my office right now, you'd be really disappointed because it's being totally renovated. There's no flooring in there, there's no shelving in there, but it has been kept. I'll have a spot for it that will be absolutely magnificent.
All right, well, that's outstanding because it's time to get that missing thing back.
Yes, sir. Yes,
This
sir.
year's Battle of the Bridge will be September 21st at 2 p.m. at Fort Walton Beach High School, and this is your official invite. Now, in the past, we've skipped the boomers. They're 5 and 6, they're pint size. We thought they were too small and too young to send into such an important battle, but they took exception to that. So this year, for the first time, our boomers are going to represent our city. This is the 5 and 6-year-olds, and I'm joined at the podium by Coach Strickland and some of the pint-sized athletes and cheerleaders here. These are the ones that are going to get that thing back for you, that missing item.
Well, and I sincerely believe that. I'm looking at these young men and women, and I have all the faith in the world. They're going to do it.
They're 3-0 right now, Mr. Mayor.
Wow.
But it's important to note that this will be the 6th Battle of the Bridge, and some of these guys are 5 years old. So for the first time, we're going to have competitors that they weren't even born when the first one took place. They've been looking forward to this their whole life.
Absolutely.
Ever since they were littler. Now, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Franks, as you know, was recently elected to the Florida League of Cities. It's a great honor. 411 cities and municipalities in Florida, and he's now a big shot among big shots, but that is going to take him away from the bridge. For the first time, we're going to have a missing mayor at the bridge game. Luoma Franks will be representing Shalimar, and I wanted to let you know about some of the VIPs that will be there. Our league president of the Panhandle Youth Football Association, Cornell Brick. This game has garnered his attention over the years, and he will be there this year. And someone that you honored in this chambers nearly 3 years ago will be there, the founder of the Future Star Sports Clinic, Chris Torres. He was recently honored by the United Way. He was named one of the 40 most influential people under the age of 40 in the Florida Panhandle, the 40 Under 40 Award. And you honored him 3 years ago, so you were ahead of the curve. County Commissioner Trey Goodwin will return. He'll be presenting the trophy to the winning city's mayor, to you. He's going to present the trophy to you.
Yes, sir.
Putting pressure on
And, well, we have another VIP. The person tossing the coin this year is going to be Billy Bowlegs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's also bringing some of his crew, and Billy Bowlegs' motto, you might know, is never trust a pirate. So for this reason, I do recommend keeping your wallet in your front pocket, and we might use a penny for the coin toss. Mr. Mayor, there's also a VVIP out there that we hope will attend. This is a very important person, and we believe this VVIP is crucial to our team's success. The first 5 battles, the 3 when we fell, this VVIP was not there, but the 2 that we stood strong, that we were victorious, and we got you that item to your office, this VVIP was there. Jane, if you're watching, the kids are calling on you.
We want Jane!
Yes, we do. To the rest of the council, unlike last year, this is a home game. Where is Travis Smith? I'll give him hell later for that. But to the rest of the council, this is a home game for us, unlike last year, and we do control the gate. All of your names, maybe Smith's, will be on a VIP list at the gate. And we want you to come. Right now, when you're up there on the council, you are our city representatives and you're representing these guys. On Saturday, September 21st, these guys are going to be representing you. We want you there. We want you hollering at them. Councilman Meade, you do not have to wear a suit. Unless that's all you have in your closet. I ran into this guy outside the VA office, and he was wearing a suit even there. Well, for the rest of the gallery, this is your city's team right here. They're playing for city pride. At stake is control of the bridge between us and Shalimar, and they'd love to have all of you guys come to the Battle of the Bridge and support these guys. We come to just one little league game a year. This is the one. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have. Kids, do you have anything else to add?
We want the bridge! We want the bridge!
Short, sweet, and to the point this year, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Leibowitz, I wanted to say, we know that Mayor Franks isn't going to be there, and his wife is going to represent him. So I've asked my wife, Janie, will be there. She will be front and center, and she's going to be coaching these young men and women as well. She's looking forward to it. So it's going to be lady against lady as far as center field. I'm certainly going to be there on the sidelines cheering absolutely as well. I'm looking forward to it. My wife's looking forward to it. It's going to be a great day. Thank you.
More fun giving her the flowers than you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any other public comment? Anybody wants to speak on items not on the agenda? All right, then I'm going to go into item 10. Item 10.1 we have postponed. So we'll go to item 11. Ordinances on first reading. 11.1, 2158. Ordinance amending the Code of City Ordinances, Chapter 2.07.03, Establishment of Pension Advisory Committee. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2158, an ordinance of the City of Fort Walton Beach amending the General Employees Retirement Plan, amending the section pertaining to the establishment of the Pension Advisory Committee, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Neighbors?
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of an administrative issue. Our general employee pension plan closed in January of 2010. As of today, we only have 28 employees that are actually in the plan, and soon we're only going to have 24. Currently, we can only have current employed members on our board. So basically, this just takes it so we amend the ordinance so we can have retirees that are in the plan serve on our board, because we're having a really hard time finding people. A, they think that they can't because they don't know anything about it, but there's just not a lot of people to choose from. So staff respectfully recommends City Council adoption of ordinance number 2158 to amend sections 2.07.03 of the General Employees Retirement Plan to allow retired members of the plan to serve on the General Employees Pension Advisory Committee.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council for Ms. Neighbors?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What's the need for an advisory committee for pension, for this pension plan?
So before I came on, the council was the advisory committee, and it came back so the staff would be it. So I'm the chair of it, and then we have other employees. So then every quarter we have them come and present what happened in the quarter, and then we also do different things and let people that retire and all that kind of stuff, and go through all the administrative processes.
May I continue? Okay,
ma'am.
Is there a cost for the advisory committee, or?
No, it's just employees. It's we volunteer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this? Seeing none, council, please get a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2158 to amend sections 2.07.03 of the General Employees Retirement Plan to allow retired members of the plan to serve on the General Employees Pension Advisory Committee.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Then moved by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilman Mean to adopt 2158, the ordinance amending Chapter 2.07.03, the establishment of the Pension Advisory Committee. Further comment? Comment? Council, please vote. And it does pass 6-0. Thank you, Council. That'll bring us to item 12, ordinances on second reading. Item 12.1. 2152, ordinance amending the Land Development Code 1.08.02, removing bus stop permissible, commercial bus stop for permissible use. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2152, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending Section 1.08.02 of the Land Development Code to add a definition for bus stop and a definition for public transit stop. Amending Chapter 2, zoning districts and uses of the Land Development Code to add public transit stop and remove terminals. Bus transit includes truck stop as permitted uses in both commercial general CG and commerce and technology park CTP zoning districts, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Frasetti.
Thank you. Chris Frasetti, Growth Management Director. As Ms. Kopp said in the reading of the ordinance, really this is the amendment to our Land Development Code table of uses and definitions to define these bus stops and to change it to make them not allowable or permissible use within the city limits. There have not been any changes since first reading, and we've not, my office has not received any public comments since first reading as well. So with that, staff does respectfully recommend approval. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Frasetti?
Just a quick question, just reading over this. What is given the cutting corners mentality of the new owners of the city bus service, who is that? Is that the owner of the Shell station? Or is that it says 2.3 discussion, given the cutting corners mentality of the new owners of the intercity bus service transit stop vendor, then prohibiting new transit stops throughout will prevent the problems. I didn't know what the cutting corners mentality, what is that?
I believe that's referring to the operator of Greyhound that runs Greyhound, that how they previous have they done here in other cities, how they closed the bus stops and kind of just piggybacked on existing gas stations and properties.
So they're no longer having freestanding. That's the cutting. I got you.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, Mr. Smith has offered a statement to be read. Ms. Barnes, do you want to read that, please?
No, this is on 12.3.
On which one?
12.3.
Oh, I'm sorry, I hadn't made a note that it was on 12-1. I'm so sorry. We'll hold that off until later. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Yes, sir.
Phil Goldmeyer, 206 Buck Drive, Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I would like to see you vote this down, because have you considered who this is really affecting? I've read, well, we want to get rid of the transients. Well, yeah, we have a transient problem in the city. This isn't the way to solve it. You're affecting a lot of other people by eliminating bus stops in this city. People who don't have the means to own a car, to rent a car, to buy an airplane ticket, military, families who want to come see their family, families who want to exit the city to see their family. It's not a solution to the problem. There are other solutions. I mean, I read, well, these stops leave people stranded. Well, require Mr. Patel to keep his shop open when there's a bus stop in there. Oh, transients will be just walking around. Well, have Mr. Patel have an Uber or taxi there when a bus stops there. It's very short-sighted. I put a comment up on Concerned Citizens on Facebook, and the comments were, it's discriminatory. It's discriminatory against lower-income people, regular citizens. Put transients out of your mind. How are you affecting regular citizens on this? So I would highly encourage you to at least table it, reconsider options to be able to have Greyhound stop somewhere in this area, whether it be Santa Rosa Mall, build a new terminal. I don't know, but just to pull the rug out is not acceptable. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment?
My name is Ricky Blumen, and I come to represent Greyhound. Only thing I'm asking is for we come to a means of relocating bus stations, doing something for, like you said, people that can't afford nothing else. This is my area now, so I'm willing to work with anybody to help me. I'm not from Florida. I drove from Birmingham, so I'm willing to work and relocate the bus station or do whatever I need to do to keep the bus station here.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Minnick?
My name is Mike Minnick. I live at 106 Winnell Circle. I agree with a lot of both what the gentleman said. Maybe because when I was in college, I didn't have a car. I had to ride the bus. So even afterwards, I rode the bus. Didn't have a car, you have to ride the bus. You know, so I think it's cutting back a lot of people that can't afford to ride the bus. I have a very good friend of mine that lives in Atlanta. He couldn't afford to go see his girlfriend in Memphis in his car because his gas prices. So he rode the bus. So I understand the reasons for it, and I understand that there's not only people drinking when they get off at the bus station and can't get back on, or transients. I understand it. I'm in the middle on it. I really wish there was a better solution, because it does cut a lot of people that maybe just can't afford to get there any other way. And I hate to see that mode of transportation go away.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, council, it's back to you. Can we get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2152, amending the City of Fort Walton Beach Land Development Code, Section 2.03.02, table of permissible uses to eliminate terminals, bus, transit, includes truck stop as permissible uses in both CG and CTP zoning districts.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Jeter, seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to amend the Land Development Code 1.08.02, removing the commercial bus stop permissible use. Further comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say thanks for all of you for coming and speaking. And it definitely is tough, like Mr. Minnick said. You can be in the middle sometimes and agree to disagree, the bus stop may possibly get relocated and you may be able still to serve this community, I'm certainly willing to help facilitate that. This is just pertaining to the city of Fort Walton Beach. So without getting into the specifics, it used to be over here, and there was, I think it closed over there because there was a shooting. And I've been down there multiple times when the bus arrives and seen, as Mr. Minnick said, people get off drinking, go to the gas station, drink, not allowed to get back on. And then I see kids walking to school 50 feet away. So there are two sides to every story, and we can disagree, but still hopefully come to a solution that works for everybody. But the current one's not working.
Other comments from council? Mr. Allegretto?
Yeah, I'm going to be voting in favor of this as well, and I do appreciate the comments of Mr. Goldmeyer, Mr. Vaughn, Mr. Minnick. But to me, this doesn't eliminate Greyhound bus service coming to Okaloosa County. It doesn't eliminate Greyhound bus service from serving Fort Walton Beach and the city of Fort Walton Beach. It just eliminates a bus stop in the city limits of Fort Walton Beach. The main reason that I'm in favor of this is because I've talked to several of our police officers who say this is a major problem. I haven't witnessed it firsthand like Mr. Jeter, but in these discussions that we've had, and this is not something we just came up with randomly 2 weeks ago and decided, hey, let's put this on an agenda and do this. We've had a lot of background discussions and conversations. I do understand the value of bus service. And obviously this doesn't eliminate the county from having public bus service into the city limits. It just eliminates that particular service from having that particular stop, which has been a problem in our city for a long time. So I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Meade, you have a comment?
I supported it last meeting. I didn't like it last meeting, and I still don't like it. I don't have an alternative is my problem. As far as the mall, so long as there's not a corresponding ordinance in Mary Esther that's outside the city limits. I agree that it is a necessary mode of transportation. I don't like just saying you can't do it in the city. I wish we had a better answer. I'd love to say table it, but we've been talking about it and it's been a priority, and that's why I've supported it, because I haven't come up with a better solution. Simply saying I don't like it, I don't think is a good response. I think if I could have come up with a better solution, I would be presenting it to you today. If there's a better location, if there's a farther in the north end of the city that would require more, I just can't come up with one. So in line with what Mr. Minnick mentioned, where I think my interpretation of what he said was I'm somewhere in the middle, but I think, unless I hear something to the contrary that changes my mind, I will be supporting it, but with a great deal of reluctance. I just don't have a solution to try to argue for other council members to vote no. So until I can come up with that, or someone can help me come up with one, I will support it.
Thanks. Any other? Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, just to echo what Mr. Meade, Mr. Allegretto, and Mr. Jeter mentioned, a lot of things were weighed out to get to this point. Boiling it down for me is we've had a strategic plan of public safety vagrancy, and we're going after different things to try to remove that culture, remove that perspective about Fort Walton Beach. We had a CRA meeting about 6 months or a year ago. It was just a regular meeting where we had some folks in the community come in here that had the understanding that we may be getting rid of community policing. And in that conversation, we heard from a couple local business owners about their kids and their concerns about the narrative and just the culture and the understanding of the blightedness, the safety, and the vagrancy in Fort Walton Beach. This is one strategy that's not going to be perfect, one of many strategies this board is taking action on, but we're going after that strategic goal to try to change the narrative, to try to improve the culture of the blightedness and the vagrancy that those things are happening inside the city of Fort Walton Beach. I'm confident in Greyhound's team. They're going to strategize and look for other locations that will continue to impact the mission of Greyhound, that will continue to impact those other folks that rely on this means of transportation because of the cost. There's some very strong people and good people on those buses, but we also have some intel from public safety as well. There's some concerns of those things that are happening at our bus stops and buses. And we're sending the message to the rest of the municipalities in the county that we're recommending this. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from council? Mr. Berry?
Yes. I have ridden Greyhound buses in the past as a youngster many times. I even had my children as mid-teenagers ride on the bus. I felt comfortable. I watched them get on the bus. I watched the people that got on the bus. It's a different culture that we have in what we're seeing now. And maybe Greyhound can be more restrictive or what. And I appreciate the fact that that mode of travel is less expensive than an airline ticket. But we have a high school there and an elementary school right there and a church across the street, and I'm very concerned. Thank you very much.
Any other council comments? Council, please vote. That does pass 6-0. Thank you, council. Item 12.2, 2153, an ordinance amending Land Development Code Section 6.06.00, prohibiting commercial bus stops after September 10th, 2025. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2153, an ordinance of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending Section 6.0600 of the Land Development Code to add a Section 6.06.01 titled Definitions, amending Section 6.0600 of the Land Development Code to add a Section 6.0602 titled Commercial Bus Stops Prohibited Within City Limits, prohibiting the use of land for commercial bus stops within the city limits of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, immediately, providing an amortization period for any existing commercial bus stops and extinguishing the grandfathering of commercial bus stops as a non-conforming use after September 10th, 2025, providing a method for affected parties to seek limited relief from the use prohibition established by this ordinance, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing an immediate effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Frasetti.
Thank you. As Ms. Kopp read in the title there also, really this is just setting the process and guidelines in place for the following, for the previous ordinance that you all just approved. That really sets that no new bus stops, commercial bus stops would be allowed after this date, and then the existing one has a 1-year period to cease operations. And there is a process in there for request for extension and appeals if so happens at that time. So with that, we've not made any changes since first reading, nor have we received any comments from our staff side since first reading. So staff does respectfully recommend approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from council for Mr. Frasetti? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this ordinance, proposed ordinance? Seeing none, may we get a vote?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance amending LDC section 6.06.00, prohibiting commercial bus stops after September the 10th, 2025.
Second.
And moved by Councilwoman DeBerry and seconded by Councilman Jeter to approve 2153, an ordinance amending the Land Development Code, section 6.06.00, prohibiting commercial bus stops after September 10th, 2025. Further comments? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. Now we're at item 12.3, 2155, ordinance creating Code of Ordinances, chapter 11.16, photo speed enforcement in school zones. Ms. Kopp.
Ordinance 2155, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, providing for authority, amending Chapter 11, Traffic and Vehicles, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief Beige.
Mayor, this ordinance is on second reading. There were a few questions I was asked at council at first reading. One was from Mr. Walker that asked about speeding citations within school zones. So over the last 3 years, and I need to give a little context to the number, there's two different statutes that are written within school zones. When the lights are flashing, it's one statute, 316/1985, which is an enhanced penalty for speeding through a school zone. We write approximately 20 of those each year over the past 3 years. The ordinance for photo enforcement allows school photo enforcement during the school day. So it's not just during the beacon time, it's during the complete time when school is in, from a half hour prior to a half hour after school. To get the actual number of speeding citations written during those times is a little bit more difficult because that's written under the general speeding statute, which is 316.183, and we'd have to run that for each individual address, or I'd have to give you the number of total speeding tickets written by the city, so I wasn't able to break that down just in front of the schools, because it could be written in front of the dollar store, it could be written in front of Dollar General that's there, or some other business that was in front of the school, so that number's a little bit harder to come to. But I can tell you one of the things that we do get quite often is complaints within the school zones. And just because 20 citations were written there, that doesn't mean we stop 20 people from speeding within the school zones. Lots of times a person will be stopped, they'll be warned about their conduct. If we believe they're going to change their conduct, a citation may not be written. Or they could be stopped at a citation to be written for something else, because a lot of officers sometimes don't like writing the hefty school zone citation, which is hundreds of dollars, depending on how much you're over the speed limit. Sometimes they'll write a safety belt ticket and no proof of insurance and no registration, or some secondary ticket, and that's sometimes enough to possibly get the person to change their behavior. So just the 20 alone, I don't think is a good indicator of how much effort that we put within the school zones. And I believe there's another question that was asked by Councilman Algaretto, and that was the funding and how the funding should go, and if there was a recommendation on where the funding should go to. I try to look at other agencies and what other agencies have done in their ordinances, or talk to other agency heads. There was no real agency that I was able to speak to that did anything special with their funding. It is broken down by statute in certain categories, but the city category is kind of general and doesn't have put a lot of restrictions in the money that comes back to the city. The breakdown was, or is, $5 to the school crossing guard program, so the school crossing guards would already receive extra money. $12 to the schools, $3 to criminal justice, and then $60 comes back to the city of Fort Walton Beach, and then out of our $60 comes the revenue sharing with the vendor, and depending which vendor we'd go with. Some of the solutions that I have seen for other programs, such as the red light camera program, was the money went to the Law Enforcement Trust Fund, because by statute the Law Enforcement Trust Fund has regulations to what the money can be spent to, and any expenditures from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund have to come back in the front of the city council. And the expenditures from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund are very similar to like the half-cent sales tax, where it has to go to individual projects and not programs. Because one of the things when I did research the funding, and I talked to some other agency heads, was in the first year or two, the funding is going to be a lot greater than it will be in the out years. So a lot of them were very cautious in trying to put that type of funding to any type of long-term program, and it was more for short-term things. If we needed feedback signs, traffic trailers, or something like that. So if there were categories that the council would want to put the money to, one, I would suggest that we probably do it when we bring it back for the awarding of the bid, to give us some more time to research or to think about it. But if we were to go to categories, they'd be general categories such as maybe public safety technology, public safety equipment, traffic management and traffic safety, or drug crisis management and mitigation. Those are some of the hotter topics that we're always looking for funding for. So Mayor, I think those were some of the questions that were asked at the first reading. And then I stand here if there's any questions now at the second reading.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Jeter.
So we receive more revenue the first couple of years. The revenue goes down all because of compliance?
Correct. I mean, historically, if you look across other states that have done it, and the photo enforcement in school zones, this is the first year in Florida, but if the parallel to it would be the red light camera program. If you also look at that program, you would see a lot higher volume in the first year, maybe into the second year, and then a dramatic decrease in those 3, 4, 5 and out years, because exactly what you said, it all talks about behavioral changes, and now people are following the speed limit, they're driving as it's supposed to be. The whole premise of the program is traffic safety and bring about voluntary compliance. Unfortunately, some citations have to be written to get to that voluntary compliance level. And then Mayor, one other thing I'd like to add, myself and the city manager met today with the school board, because the school board did raise some comments when Niceville presented their program. And we had met with the school board. The school board really wanted just to extend their partnership and to say that they're always working with the city and the county to improve traffic safety around the schools. And whenever we have our finished program, they'd like to be advised of where the cameras are going to be going up, what hours are going to be running the camera, and what our program will look like. We explain to them that we may not know all that until a vendor is selected. It may still be several months until we have our program finalized. And they just ask some time before the new calendar year if we just reach out to them and update them to what our actual program would look like.
Thank you, sir. Other comments or questions for the chief?
Thank you, Chief.
Go ahead.
What is the expected revenue that would go back to the city?
So if you look at the study that was done for us, it's just shy of $2 million in the first year. There's a lot of assumptions built into that.
Is that the allocation going back to the city?
Yes, and I don't think we would probably receive that amount of money. That is based on, like I said, a lot of assumptions that are made. That was based off taking a 3-day traffic study, expounding that out over 10 months. That was made that the same amount of violations are going to be written in 3 days that would be written over the course of the whole year. I think you would see a gradual decrease as that year went on, and you would not have the same amount of violations written in those first 3 days as you would have in the last 3 days of that year. So I think that number is probably greater than what we would see. It's hard to gauge what that actual number would be, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of places cautioned about tying this money to an actual program or revenue source, and to really use it like we would use half-cent sales tax or some other thing that is used for equipment, 1-year programs, or something that had a very finite.
So that 2 million
lifespan.
is not the gross number?
No, that's what, if you read through the study, that's the number that they propose that would come back to us in that first year.
Yeah. And the study was, again, there's a lot of specifics, a lot of things in there, but while we're here in a public meeting, just want to make sure that I had the right understanding of that. And even if we're if it's half off and we're lower than what's projected, $1 million back to the city for this service, as well as changing behaviors of speeding, which is the ultimate objective.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just may have brought up another question, but I was surprised to hear there were that few. As we had the meeting here a couple of weeks ago, and now as I'm going through a school zone, school's back in, I'm like, all right, because I heard you say will only issue a citation when it's more than 10 miles an hour?
Correct. So you have to be the 11th mile.
Wow. It's just amazing that people are zooming through that much, and then to hear that question there, to think, and obviously, if we've been giving 20 a year during the flashing time, because that's 10 miles an hour, but when it's not flashing, it's also 10 miles an hour. Is that correct? Just the school zone period, 10 miles an hour. And you don't know how many are in it, but man, to extrapolate out to $2 million a year is a whole lot of speculation, I think, for sure. So high hopes of funding other sources might be, this is going to have an annual cost and expense though as well.
It would have no annual cost. It would have no annual cost for us. And our hopes from public safety would be that we get $0 back, and we come back and tell you that the vendor wants to cancel their contract because we're not producing any funds for the vendor. But out of our $60, depending, and this also came up with the question was said that we want to get all the bells and whistles with the program, because it can range anywhere from about 15% to about 25% of your $60. So on the low end at the 15%, you basically get a company that just goes out there and does photo enforcement for you, sends you the violation. The violation is ultimately approved by an officer at the police department, and then it's mailed out to the violator. At the 15%, some of the companies don't cover the certified mailing cost and some other costs that may be built into the workflow. At the higher end, if you get to that 20-25% of the violation, of the $60, they cover that. They cover the certified mail, they cover some of the other costs, and they also provide you some other stuff such as LPRs. They could have some of them will put up a camera somewhere else if you wanted a camera to go up somewhere else. So they can build additional public safety measures into the product for you. And there's no cost to the city because the vendor's cost all comes out of, very similar to the parking thing that we had brought up here in the past. It all comes out of that $60 share. So if whatever that cost the vendor has, they roll that into that percent that they're taking from you. So there's no additional cost to the city. So if we wrote one ticket, or if we wrote 10,000 tickets, the cost to the city would still be the same. There would be no cost to the city. The only number that would change would be the revenue number that would come into the city.
And doing that revenue math there, again, hearing those numbers, I didn't see it in there, but I didn't look closely at it. But yeah, 10,000 tickets at $60, that's 600,000. Did I do public math right? That's just mind-blowing to think that we could have 10,000 tickets written in a year in school zone.
So if you go to page, it looks like this, it's the Vera report that was attached to the council report. And it's on about page 7 of theirs, and it says Fort Walton Beach program potential results. And if you look at the potential results, in there it breaks down how they get to their numbers in there.
Right, I don't, yeah, it's just mind-boggling that 10,000 tickets at $60 revenue to us would be 600,000, and they've used 3 times, so 30,000 tickets is 1.2, 1.8. Yeah, that's crazy, 30,000 tickets. But it's just interesting.
And that's why I nuanced my statement too by saying I don't think we'll probably reach those numbers. That I would be conservatively at a lesser number than that.
Mm-hmm. And do I remember you saying that they can only be in school zones because of a state restriction?
Yes.
Because I was reading somewhere, it must have been another state, but so it stayed, it wouldn't be our county. I thought it was a Florida municipality had it, and maybe it was on the interstates, maybe that's what was different, but they had, so it must, if that's not possible in Florida, then it was another state.
There's only 4 places of Florida allows photo enforcement. Toll plazas, so if you run the toll, you can get a photo and citation. The photo enforcement in school zones now, red light cameras, and school buses. They can put them behind the stop sign on schools. So those are the only 4 allowable uses of photo enforcement in the state of Florida.
Because I was reading that article of obviously the other state, I was like, well, if another state's out to do it, constitutionally, I mean, and then we hear these kind of numbers and projections, whether they're legitimate or not yet, we'll know in time, obviously, but, they were installing, it was a municipality, something small in my mind, it made me think of us, but they were using traffic, just pure straight out traffic monitoring on regular streets. Nothing about a school zone, nothing about anything else. It was just a revenue source from them, and I kind of feel funny about it in some regards. And you got the safety measure, and then I've got some other concerns about cameras everywhere.
And that's one of the reasons the state of Florida did it only in the school zones, because they wanted to enhance safety for school kids, pedestrians. In school zones, you generally see more kids crossing, there's more bicycle activity, there's a greater risk for a traffic incident to happen in a school zone than on a regular roadway. The other thing that we're hoping is that there's a carryover effect. So even though the speed camera is in front of Choctaw, in front of Pryor on racetrack, that anybody driving on racetrack then is going to slow down. Shalomar's talking about putting one on 85 right there by the fire station, by the Ocean City Wright Fire Station for the Meg School Zone and the Shalamar Elementary School Zone. We're hoping that would have a carryover effect for all of Eglin Parkway, because if somebody's driving and they hear, hey, I got a ticket on Eglin, they're going to now slow down on the whole roadway. So even though the actual enforcement will only be within the school zones, we strongly believe there's going to be some carryover effect along the whole roadway, which will improve the overall traffic safety in the community.
Thank you. One other question. I watch a lot of crime shows. And one of the things that, whether it's Memphis or Detroit or some of the bigger cities, it seems, the crime is committed in a neighborhood and they describe a silver car at 2 a.m. and that's about the only description. And then the officers go somewhere and look at cameras that pick up their driver's license and maybe even a facial picture of who's driving and stuff. Will you guys have access to any, hey, I'd like to see who passed through here at 2 o'clock. I mean, not related to a speeding traffic, to a traffic ticket, but at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, you guys say, hey, I want to just see if there was a silver car coming down here between 2 and 2:05. Can you guys get access to that?
We'd have to see which vendor we go with. Depending on which vendor, there's a possibility to get that information. We do have license plate readers. We have 5 of them across the city and 1 portable license plate reader trailer. So we can go to the license plate readers and pull up vehicle, like you described, a white truck. And we can see that a white truck go past here, how many white trucks went past there, get the license plates of those white trucks, and then work the investigation backwards from there to say, okay, here's all the white trucks that had license plates that went past this location. Let's see who we can include or exclude as a possible subject from the crime. So you can't put pieces of the puzzle together like that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Berry.
Excuse me. You said 11 miles over the speed limit, is that what?
Yes.
What happened to 8 you skate and 9 in your mind?
Yeah, that's the state legislature and the governor. That's what they passed in with the photo enforcement. I think they wanted to have enough of a window there so if somebody was just over the speed limit, it wouldn't catch them. But now, if you think your mind in the school zone 10 over, you're going a good speed. I mean, you're passing by the other cars. And even when it's not the flashing hour and it's the regular speed limit in front of a school, you still have kids that get out at different times. If you have high school kids, and I'm sure you've seen them a lot of times at Choctaw, not everybody gets out when school gets out. If you have enough credits, you can leave half a day, you start a half a day, you have work release programs. So you have a lot of activities in front of the school. And 10 miles over you're really starting to move down that roadway.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was surprised here, Wright Parkway, to have such a high number there. I've had a lot of complaints since I've been on council about that. And what really concerns me is that there's 2 schools there. Silver Sands, the special needs schools, right there on Wright and Holmes, I think. And then, of course, Hollywood, that's a busy road anyway, so I was surprised that it would be. But now it's in black and white that I see that what they have been saying has been true. They're speeding, and we had a major accident there resulting in a death not long ago that touched a lot of hearts there. And I was surprised here at Choctaw Racetrack Road. I see a lot of, I sat there, I was surprised, so yeah, thank you for this information.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council?
Was the speed study, was it done with those things,
Tubes?
like a tube in the road?
I don't know how this company did it. It was just one of these several vendors that all reached out to us. We wanted just to have some data available to us. Prior to actually doing the installation out there, we would do a second speed study just to make sure that it's a viable location. And the vendor would also want to do a second study out there just to make sure when they put their equipment out there, that it's a viable location for them too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to open this for public comment, but I think Ms. Barnes, you have a statement on this one?
This is from a councilman, you want to wait until after the vote?
Well, this is the first of public comment on this.
Okay, this is from Councilmember Smith. He says, unfortunately, I'm unable to attend due to prior commitments. However, we have some important items on the agenda and I would like to give my input on. So the first one is item 12.3 on the agenda as it relates to photo enforcement of school zones. While I am in support of the cameras, the one caveat that I do not support is the cameras to be in use while the beacon lights are inactive.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment on this particular ordinance? Seeing none, council is back to you. We need a motion.
Mayor, I move for adoption of ordinance number 2155 to amend chapter 11 of the Code of Ordinances, adding section 11.16, photo enforcement of school zone speed limits within the city, Mayor.
Second.
And moved by Councilman Allegretto and second by Councilman Jeter to approve ordinance 2155, creating Code of Ordinances chapter 11.16, photo speed enforcement in school zones. Further comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to save my comments here for the comment portion of the meeting. This is an important ordinance, and this is something that every person in this room, whether you currently have kids that go to these schools or whether you've had kids that go to these schools in the past, or whether you have kids that go there right now or you went there when you were a little kid. We've all seen this happen. I see it every day. I drive down Racetrack Road past Choctaw, and every single day there's always that one guy, and it's not the same guy. At least I hope. There's always that one person in the traffic that everyone else is at a crawl 20 miles an hour. And you see somebody that's up to 35, 40 miles an hour through the school zone, and whether they're paying attention or not, you know, the police are on the scene in school zones. I don't know that there is a school zone in the city where you don't find either Fort Walton Beach PD or Okaloosa County Sheriff's Deputy. Somebody's there. But those people are there to ensure the safety of all the students, not to hang a radar gun out a door and write citations and tickets. So I think this is a really important thing that's going to change behavior. I think more importantly, though, is this is not being done to generate revenue, in my opinion. I don't think that's the goal of this. You know, when you throw out a number, and I'm sure that every one of these companies is always going to say, oh yeah, we're going to bring in $2 million. You know, that's the hook, right, for anybody. If you're a city, if you're a county, if you're whomever, you're saying, oh, well, this is going to bring all this money in. That money's got to go straight back into making the city safer, public safety. So whether that's defined as one of the categories that Chief Beige mentioned or not, it definitely, in my opinion, has to go back into public safety, because this isn't being brought up to generate $2 million. And as you said before, we hope that as time travels on, people's behaviors change, and that there's not that guy that you see in the school zone going 41, 45 miles an hour. I'd also like to address what Councilman Smith said in that statement as well, and I know he's not here to expand on it. But I think it's important that this be on all day while school's in session. As Chief Beige correctly brought up, kids get out of school at different times. You can drive by Elliott Point Elementary and see the kid who had to go to the nurse, and his mom has come to pick him up, and now she's walking across the street there, and there is no crossing guard at that time. But school is still in session, and there's still kids and parents interacting with that traffic. So I think it's important that this stay throughout the day. When school's in session, these rules are in session. And I think we're going to see these behaviors change over time. And I think that it's going to really enhance the public safety of our city, which goes right along with our core values as a council and as a city, that we make the city as safe as possible. And this accomplishes those goals. So I look forward to seeing the final product and what that is. Again, I do encourage you, Chief, to really present something that's full and robust, that encompasses a lot of those other things. I do kind of side with Councilman Walker in not wanting to see cameras all over the place and, you know, us becoming a massive surveillance police state. But at the same time, if they're offering other things that will make our city safer, let's bring those back and consider them here. Because again, the goal here is not to maximize the revenue, the goal is to maximize the safety. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeter?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I'm not going to repeat it all, but the number one goal is safety of our kids. Every parent knows that. This accomplishes a lot of safety for a lot of kids without a lot of need for funding or FTEs. So it doesn't need to be a revenue stream. I'm like you, I hope a year from now, it's actually zero. I really think, like Councilman Allegretti was saying, not only is it going to help us get there, I'd be willing to bet that as soon as this gets known publicly, and there's an article written on it, you'll probably start to see people go, don't, because they don't know when the cameras are up or down. Obviously, you'll see the construction, but I think, just like me and you have had many conversations about, once we start that level of enforcement and we start pushing the envelope, I think you'll see compliance before you actually see tickets or revenue. So 100% support it.
Thank you, sir. Other comments? Mr. Mead?
I agree. Just with code enforcement, the similar analogy, compliance, not punishment. I would be in favor for a better infrastructure, less percentage, because we're not. This isn't some sort of a grab of money or anything of that nature. I want what I think the other gentlemen have referenced, which is a safer school zone throughout the entire school day. Because I agree, going near our schools, there are children that are let out throughout the day for various reasons and activities. So I do think it's important to be, you know, the 30 minutes before, during, and then 30 minutes after. So once again, I'll support it, and I'm not as concerned over percentages of what the city would bring in if we can enhance the service that we're giving to our students in those schools and the families that are picking them up from the school. So those are the individuals that are new drivers, and so walking, etc. So it's for those reasons that I will support it. and I will support it for the entire school day.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Schmidt?
I'll echo what Mr. Mead said. My thoughts exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. I won't be supporting it. I know I'm a minority here, but I won't be supporting it. I do have, as Mr. Allegretto said, I do have a concern and suspicion of a surveillance state. When I look at a couple parts of this, just for my own reasons, the projected revenue is highly inflated. Why is that? It makes it easy for the citizens to accept it when they say, oh, it's 10 miles an hour over. And then when you narrow it down to the children, who doesn't want to protect children? Who in the right mind would vote against protecting the children? I would also say that children ride up and down Eglin Parkway every day with their families and their kids. I mean, with their families and friends, children are riding up and down the road. So, you know, right now it's really easy. Yes, we've already got them over in the we've already got them over in the school districts, will be said. And I mean, thank you, Chief Bage, for, you know, I mean, I didn't know how big the problem was, and hearing that it's 20 a year, and we don't know if those were 2 miles an hour over, if it was distracted driving, if it was other things. There were citations issued in there. So I just won't be able to support it, because I do believe that it's a gateway into becoming a surveillance state. And I do love seeing, you know, I heard the comments about adjusting our habits, and I believe that's true, we do. And I know I'm not the only one, but when I see a police car on the side of the road, I generally tap my brakes, slow down, and go. And if I see an officer there holding up what I believe is a radar gun, I'm definitely going to do it as well. But also, it's kind of funny too. I think that the one there in Shalimar, when I go over the bridge, they used to park a car over there with nobody in it. So it was like, how do I speed? You know, so I do like the idea of officers being enforced on there, not only for the traffic violations, but, you know, whether it's a stranger coming by on a bicycle, or someone just shouldn't be there in general. They're suspicious and not supposed to be there. I like the presence of a physical law enforcement officer there, so I won't be supporting the installation of cameras. Thank you.
Thank you for everybody. Council, please vote. Does pass 5-1. Thank you, Council. Item 12.4, 2156, ordinance amending Code of Ordinances Section 2.06.03, Firefighters Pension Trust Fund. Ms. Cobb.
Ordinance 2156, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Fort Walton Beach, Florida, amending the City of Fort Walton Beach Municipal Firefighters Pension Trust Fund, amending the section pertaining to benefit amounts and eligibility, amending the section pertaining to vesting, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you.
Chief Morgan's out of town.
Okay.
This is second reading, and no changes have been made since first reading, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Any questions from council for Mr. Peters? Seeing none, anyone from the public wish to speak on this one? Seeing none, Councilman Lee, maybe get a motion.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2156 to amend the City of Fort Walton Beach Municipal Firefighters Pension Trust, Section 2.06.03 Firefighters Pension Trust Fund as detailed in the proposed ordinance.
Thank you.
Second.
And moved by Councilman Jeter and second by Councilman Allegretto to approve ordinance 2156, amending the Code of Ordinances Section 2.06.03, the Firefighters Pension Trust Fund. Further comments? Council, please vote. Does pass unanimously. Thank you, Council. That'll bring us to item 13, action, direction, discussion. Item 13.1, change order for Hollywood Boulevard Southwest and Robinwood Drive Southwest intersection improvements. Mr. Payne.
Yes. Daniel Payne, Public Works Utility Services Director. Feels like forever since I've been up here. This item in front of you is related to my favorite intersection. This one that's been going on for quite some time. It's Hollywood Boulevard Southwest and Robinwood Drive, right, straight north of here.
This item was identified as one of the first initial half-cent sales tax surtax projects that we had. We wanted to go and update all the city-owned span wires to mast arms, kind of along the same lines of the consistent thought that we kind of just heard with our pedestrian crossing. There's currently no stop controls. We have facilities on either side, but no real way to cross and things like that. So this intersection scored pretty high, and this is why we started doing that. In March of 2022, we awarded the contract to Ingram Signalization out of Pensacola. If you drive anywhere around town, you'll see multiple intersection mast arms going up. I think Chick-fil-A, Shalimar, just to name a few. Ingram is doing the work. It's really a specialized service. I feel like in the Panhandle, we don't really have the luxury of too many contractors that specialize in this area. As a matter of fact, I would really say there's just one. So back from 2022, you'll see a gap of time to 2024. There was lots of things going. First of all, there was a lead time for stainless steel and some of the equipment and cabinets. There was also a couple instances where we rejected the mast arms themselves. They didn't meet the specification that we had with the engineer. We finally got going earlier this year. We got going in January, late January, and whenever the drill contractor showed up, that's about what it sounds like, a big auger drill. It was the area is loaded with utilities. I want to be clear with that. That's not a surprise. The method of installation was too close for comfort than we felt comfortable, so we did just that. We punched the glass and said stop for a second. We moved on the southwest corner, moved over probably a little bit more than maybe it should, resulting in us needing to rework the intersection. Had the engineer record drew it up. We had a shift in alignment. It's something that could be taken care of. The radiuses will be changed. But the conflict with the utility that we had was just, man, it was just really, and I'll take full accountability for this one, but it was a gravity sewer going into our pump station. It serves about half a town, right? If any damage would been had to that, we'd probably pay for this job 5 times over, right? So that was kind of the background going into it. We got revised plans in March, and we, got back with Ingram to get pricing for that. I think they had some confusion on if I was going to get pricing or they were. At least that's what we were told. But finally, we received all of our pricing here at the beginning of August. The resulting change order is a little bit over 100,000, 108 to be clear. And that's just, that's reworking the road, that's paving, that's milling, it's new curb work, and as well as removing some of the old stuff that we had on there that we didn't have in there before, because I wanted all encompassing and I didn't want to come back to this board again on that end. So work is going to be taking place now. Really, they're ready to go pending this decision on that side. But having said that, the recommendation is to award change order 1 for Hollywood Boulevard and Robin Wood Drive intersection improvements to Ingram Signalization of Pensacola, Florida, in the amount of $108,527.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council from Mr. Manning?
Just was reviewing this, and thank you for the background on it and all. I was able to see back, and so it was originally approved about $300,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, 390.
So this is about a 35% add, 30 some odd percent add. 300,000 had 100.
20, yeah, right.
So, you know, in my business, that's about all I can do is kind of find some equation to what you do to what I do, because I don't do what you do. But I know when I go to a site or bring a builder out or an engineer out to the property to start looking at things, they say, well, hey, I'm going to put it over here. And I go, hey, that's a little too close to the edge, or that's too close to that limb. I want to keep that tree kind of stuff. We go through that. So help me wrap my mind around how we can make it to a bid being made for $300,000 with all the highly technical, skilled people at Ingram there. I'm assuming they went to the site. I'm assuming utilities were known and marked. And how did we miss it is kind of the question. How did we miss that uncomfortableness to begin with? Not to say that it would have changed necessarily the price, but I've always been told that, or come to believe that sometimes bids are made knowing that they're going to get a lot of chance to make some improvements to their bottom line. And so, here it is, 300,000 is more palatable than 400,000. Not that we would have turned down 400,000 either, if it was about public safety, of course. So, walk me through how that happened from an engineer standpoint of them and you being on site or your staff.
So this job is, I will say it's atypical to some of the other ones that we did, partially because we had subsurface utility locates ahead of time. What that is under the engineer's contract, we had someone come in, basically, instead of just, thinking or marking or going off marks on the ground, they dug up and vacuum drilled and located everything. The case, what I feel like happened was it was, on an engineer's perspective, the designer had some clearance. The gravity line that we have is a little bit bigger of a footprint than what they think, and it is deeper than what we thought. 6 inches to a foot, they probably felt like it was fine. Once we were out there and saw the casings a little bit bigger, the method of doing it just, like I said, you didn't have, while it might have shown like it was good on the plans, once you got out on the field, way too close for comfort. As a matter of fact, it was actually over the top at one point before we stopped. So going through, I think, maybe a lot of us can sit and design a room, but the actual installation stuff, when you're down to a precision of, inches, it too close. And like I said, accountability-wise, looking back, that's me, right? Like I should say no, but there also is a slider one of those stuff over there, which is going to be probably more prevalent in any job we do.
So you were on site when the call was made to call it off, and just out of, because I want to visualize it, you were there and they drilled down in the ground and you saw a casing, or what was it?
But the casing, the drill goes in the steel casing.
Right.
Like the protection was supposed to, what we thought was the casing goes down to protect the utility line. The casing, without knowing the size of the casing, the casing was bigger. The casing was going to be the problem where it was at until we moved it on that side.
It was going to be, that casing was going to be interfering with one of the...
It was going to hit one of the city's large sanitary sewer lines going down on it.
So the failure analysis, if you will, would be that the engineering firm, through right or wrong, you or them or whatever else, they didn't know the actual location of the things that we wanted to be away from.
I think you're looking at it in what it's going to look like when it's their state, and not the work it took to put it in their state. The work that put it in there, we felt it was going to be too close to call or a problem. If that makes any sense. If it doesn't,
I'm just a visual person, and I'm again just trying to figure, and the engineering that goes into these type of deals, and I don't know if that's a common occurrence with Ingram, if this was a rarity. I don't know how often they get budget increase requests, with it. Is it a business tactic? I don't know.
And, for this, I'll say they work with state road contract, right? Like, that's probably the majority of their work. If we went out and interjected ourselves in the work, could you have something different price-wise? Yeah, sure. But you're also interjecting yourself into a job and can be subject for, any other things. We try to not do that. That's one of the problems without doing anything turnkey on the liability side or delays or any of the other things. So pricing-wise, breaking it down, I think it's well worth it just to have it all under their umbrella in case stuff doesn't work out. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Payne? Anyone from the public wish to comment?
I was going to.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Payne, for explaining. I was wondering what was taking so long, but from your explanation, I'm glad you took the side of caution, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Mr. Minnick.
My name again is Mike Minnick, 106 Windhouse Circle. Whatever you need to do, you need to fix it. That intersection is dangerous. I've seen a lot of vehicles run over that casing, and that casing has studs sticking out of it, and it's dangerous. So I think you can just chalk this up to stuff happens, but you damn sure can't chalk it up to somebody trying to cheat you to get more money. Because you're dealing with a contractor that's very reputable, that does a lot of business here. That's just, anybody can drive over that intersection and see it and understand the problem needs to be there and understand it needs to be fixed.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Council, may we get a motion?
Mayor, I'd like the motion to approve the change order for Hollywood Boulevard and Robin Drive intersection improvements to Ingram signalization of Pensacola in the amount of $108,527.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Jeter and seconded by Councilwoman DeBerry to approve the change order for Hollywood Boulevard Southwest and Robinwood Drive Southwest for intersection improvements in the amount of $108,527. Further comment?
Yes, sir. I'd like to agree with Mr. Minnick. It needs to be fixed. I'm pretty sure your department doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I hate that it happens all around, but I will also say no one likes to approve a change order with taxpayers' dollars. I get it, but I've done a few projects in my life, and I've never started one and it end without a hiccup. There's always something that happens on site. There's always something that happens with the engineer, with the architect, with a subcontractor. All you can do is adapt, overcome, make the best of it, and fix it in the end. So I think that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Allegretto.
Yeah, I would like to also thank you, Mr. Payne, for saving us potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars had you just let that go on and drilled into that clean sewer line. As you said, I mean, who knows how much that would have cost. We probably could have done this 5-6 times over. I know it's taken a long time. I strongly agree that the intersection needs fixed, and I know that that's a priority to you and your department and to the city. So I appreciate you working through all these problems and getting this done. We'd be glad to approve this change order and get that done. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Meade.
I agree, because a lot of departments would have turned a blind eye and blamed it on the contractor. Instead, you were on top of things. You made in-the-field decisions, and we appreciate what you're doing for us. And I'm also hopeful that this can be a part of a larger connectivity to the Housing Authority project of Robinwood to what will hopefully be our new recreation facility. I know there's other reasons for doing this, but I'm hopeful one day that we'll see a larger, safer connectivity, since it's my understanding maybe the youth center will be one of the first to go over there, that we can have some safer connections to the recreation facility to provide another outlet for the youth.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, just want to echo Mr. Payne, your leadership and stepping up. I know it's not always easy coming back and asking for more money on top of a project. It's not going as planned, but thank you for making the call and getting in the hole and giving it the director's best decision and best guidance. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Payne, for all the work. I too have been in the field, and I know that things happen, as Bryce said, things pop up and all. My thoughts there and approach were just, and if you don't mind, I might ask you to just step up, because I know that in a manager's position, it's like, what did you learn from this? I would like to know what you learned from this that you might come to us. I mean, I watch a lot of tech shows as well, and I know they've got ground penetrating radar, they've got 3D model imaging and stuff like that. So I heard you describe, it's almost like you're in a 1D world, but when you're there in the 3D, it looks different. And I understand that, walking around in virtual image as opposed to being in the image. But is there something that you would say, man, if we would have had this or had this happened, we wouldn't have, been surprised? Because what happened there was a surprise, and those things happen for sure. But what would you do, knowing what you know now, have done differently, had them do differently, or wished you had a tool to facilitate, barring a surprise?
That's first of all, it's a good question. First mass arm project in the city, right? For a city related. Obviously the ones on State Road. So there's a little of that. I think, hindsight, all the information was there. First of all, there's no tool or anything else that we have on there. I think if we're in, no matter who designs what, if we're into inches, then we're probably too close to comfort. So, I think, more of a conservative approach on that end is something I'll, take with me, at least on this one. And after witnessing, the methods of putting it into, I think we got a better understanding of what that sub labor looks like. And it's giant, I think that's what I'll take on that side.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's good to hear, is that next time you see a set of plans, because we'll probably be doing more arms, probably, and you see something that's within 1 or 2 or 3 inches, you're going to say, hey, let's go ahead and address that now instead of later. Can you see what it will take? Because re-asphalting and concreting and curbs, that's, they would have had to do it had you noticed it to begin with. So I don't know that it's actually a new cost. It's just, I was curious how it all came to be. So thank you for explaining. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Any other comments? Council, please vote. Those passed unanimously. Thank you, Council. Brings us to item 13.2, award of RFP 24-012 for CRA seasonal decorations. Ms. Corcoran.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a RFP that was issued for our seasonal decorations in the city. We received one proposal from the lighting company, which is our current lighting vendor. They've been our lighting vendor for the past 10 years. The proposal that we sent out, we requested 2 design options as well as a Christmas tree decorating at the landing. We chose option A, that 1A that you'll see in your packet, which is a little different than previous years. It's we're changing the ornaments to a brighter color, more jewel tone ornaments throughout the city, and we're looking at using multicolor lights at the landing instead of the white lights, so that'll be different. At the last meeting, we were also tasked with coming back with a year-round cost for lights downtown on the palm trees on Miracle Strip Parkway. So we did get a price for that, and that's what you see in your packet. That's an additional $8,975. And that includes all white lights around the trees, and that's the yearly price to purchase the lights and for maintenance. So we are requesting to award this package of the seasonal decorations, including the year-round lightings, to the lighting company.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions from council for Tiffany?
Thank you, Ms. Corcoran. I meant to kind of talk about this or ask this at the last meeting that we had on this subject, but I just want to verify that, we've spoken with Chief Beige, and I just recall when we were in the plans for the building that's been supposed to be built on the corner of Perry and 98 for 100 years. And at one point, the gentleman that was heading that organization came in here and told us that it was already going to be there, it's ready to go, but you can't have a waterfall that close to the side of Highway 98, which is of course a state road. So when we're putting lighting on trees right on the edge of a state road, are we within our rights as a city to put those lights up and they're not distracting to drivers that are coming through there? Because obviously public safety is a big deal. We definitely want our city to look beautiful, but I know there's certain color lights, I believe red, white, blue. You know, those are some popular colors, but I think those are also the colors of emergency signals. So I don't know if this is a question for you or Chief Beige. I just want to make certain that we're not going to be in a weird place with this.
This proposal is for the same lighting color that we've done the past 10 years on the lights down Miracle Strip Parkway. This is for the white. I don't know about any restrictions as far as colored lights. That was one of the concerns from our vendor that I thought we would talk about if we were looking to do colored lights on those palm trees. He had a question of whether that would be distracting to drivers if we had green, red, yellow, whatever colors of lights on those trees. But the white lights, we are within our jurisdiction to do those on those palm trees.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Jeter.
Is that, I guess I'd like to even expand on that question to know, like when you go to the wharf in Orange Beach, Alabama, the trunk can be wrapped in white, but the top of the fronds, they're constantly changing colors. So you don't have to elaborate on it tonight, but it'd be good to know if we could get an answer to that question. And maybe, could we do something on this to where they're not doing the landing? The landing is still just seasonal, correct? Because we talked about the squirrels.
Correct. The landing would still be seasonal. We did talk to them about keeping one of the oak trees lit up year round because that was brought up at the last meeting, and they recommended against that due to the squirrels and the maintenance. They would be there every 2 weeks repairing lights.
And they're probably right. This may just give us the option to maybe look for, and we have plenty of time to do this. This isn't, like you said last week, we're not trying to hold up Christmas or anything here, but maybe over the next year we go out and see if there's other vendors out there that would potentially would like to wrap the landing when it gets done, that may have a year-round product that could change colors, not be on side 98. So I definitely feel like we're accomplishing it. We're getting there. It'd be cool to add to it possibly.
Thank you, sir. Other questions, comments for Ms. Corcoran? Anyone from the public wishing to speak to this? Seeing none, Councilman, we get a motion.
I make a motion to award RFP 24-012 for CRA seasonal decorations to Property Innovations, the lighting company, for a 5-year agreement, the yearly cost of $69,480.
Sir, is there a second?
Second.
Oops, I heard it in stereo.
It was me. Did someone else say it? I'm sorry. Give it to them.
Moved by Councilman Jeter, second by Councilman Allegretto to award RFP 24-012 for seasonal CRA seasonal decorations in the amount of $69,480. Further comment?
Yeah, just want to know down there, we talked about where it actually says on this contract, this can be reevaluated yearly. Let's just not wait until next September, October. Obviously, I think we'll all be here and be around, but let's try to hit it a little bit earlier and see what they mean by that, because it would be, this originally came out as possibly saving us some money. Now it's obviously costing us more money, but we're getting something in return for it. But I think we should start a little bit earlier next year and see, did you really replace as many lights as you thought? Do we really got to pay this yearly fee now that we're not taking them up and putting them down? So I like that that's in there, can be reevaluated yearly. Let's just not wait till, we've had this talk before about insurance. They're notorious for it. They mail you a letter the week before and say, you got 2 days to renew, it went up 10 grand, yay or nay. So let's not us be in that boat next September. Let's try to get together in June or July. That's all.
Other comments? Council, please vote. And it does pass 5-1. Thank you, Council. Brings us to item 13.3, award of ITB 24-009, Preston Hood Athletic Complex expansion.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll take that one. Just a little bit of history on this project, dating back to 2014, 15, 16, when the recreation complex was built on Jet Drive. Shortly after, the city had moved forward with relocating the Public Works yard that was on Hollywood Boulevard down to Jet Stadium area, where there were some athletic fields there. The plan had kind of evolved into a possible addition onto the complex. So it kind of brought us forward to April 13th, 2021, the city council rejected 2 proposals to purchase or lease the city-owned surplus property and directed staff to move forward developing the expansion of the Preston Hood complex. Moving forward on to August 10th of 2021, council authorized Jenkins Engineering to do the final design for the expansion of the Preston Hood complex. Since that date, it was a few years ago, since that date, the plans have been completed. The plans have been bid out by the city's purchasing department. The plans include a working from the west side to the east side. It includes a basketball court, playground area, which would be done by the city. The playground area would. It includes 4 multi-purpose athletic fields. It recently, just in the last 6 to 8 months, updated the 13-court pickleball complex with 8 of the courts covered. It includes a parks facility building and a restroom concession, kind of coaches area there, as well as a 350-plus area parking lot. So the bids came back in. They were sent out on June 20th of 2024, and had a pre-bid meeting. Had a lot of interest from some of the, we ended up having five bids, and the staff is recommending actually the second lowest bid, Bear General Contractors. They came in at $7,962,000, $62,107.15 over Empire Building, and that was based on the portfolio and the past experience and projects that were related to what was going on with these projects. Both of these costs include the city doing synthetic turf on those multi-purpose fields as opposed to turf, grass, and irrigation. So that would include 4 multi-purpose synthetic turf fields, as well as, like I said, in the last 6 months, those pickleball courts complex was added with a stadium court and cover, and we have been in talks with Okaloosa County to help support that project for the pickleball addition. So with that being said, staff is recommending council, actually 3 recommendations. Staff is recommending award to Bear General Contractors of Pensacola, Florida, in the amount of $7,962,107.15. With that includes the alternates with the turf, and also $100,000 for Class 3 waste disposal. As one recommendation. The second one is staff requests City Council authorization for the city manager to approve change orders up to 10%. And also, and we do have from PRM tonight, Jeremy, staff requests authorization, if approved tonight, to pursue financing options regarding this project with PRM. And Jeremy here is in the audience to answer any questions on that concept.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Questions from council for Mr. Peters? Mr. Baird?
Not so much a question, but I thank you so much for reaching out to the county. I've been working on that.
I know. And we appreciate that.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Peters, can you elaborate more on what staff's plan is on working towards consolidating our local youth sports and getting them at this location once this design is completed?
Yeah, and you know as well as I do, especially with and some of you have kids that play, we're spread out a little bit. We consolidated with the first recreation complex that was built back in 15-16. There's a 10 athletic field complex. This would bring 4 more multi-purpose fields. We've got baby boomer soccer, back here at City Hall. We've got 8U soccer, flag football over at Ferry Park. We've got T-ball over there. This would allow us to bring all of our athletic contests at the same location, so parents like yourselves that have ranges of children from maybe 3 to whatever to be in the same complex and not have to be 4 different locations at once. Those facilities are still important to the city and still would be used for practices, obviously, as well. Would just add to the already popular athletic complex.
That's really encouraging to hear where all the games will be at those locations with multiple age groups. That's huge. That's all for questions right now, Mr. Mayor. I'll have more later on.
All right, thank you. Other questions for Mr. Peters? Mr. Walker?
I do. I'm approaching this from, I don't have kids there right now. My one of my sons did play basketball over at the rec center back years ago. And I know there are other facilities around that kids can play and do play, and I'm going to just try to approach it from a financial analysis. I know that a request for $8 million at this time in our, where we are, citizens, whether it's taxes going up, insurance is going up, I just, I initially feel, man, wow, it's an $8 million spend request while others are hurting. It feels a little wrong to me personally, but so I just went and looked the best that I could on the budget software that we have, and I went and looked at in the 2025 rec center budget is of 1.763 with a revenue of 370,000 projected. 20. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Walker, just go ahead and complete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will get to a question. Could you instruct the member there to not interrupt council while they're speaking? Could you instruct him to do that? It's very distracting to me when I have a train of thought going, I'm working towards a question, and then to have someone in the audience who's not admonished for speaking out. Would you mind correcting him, letting him know what the procedures are, and maybe even the ramifications of that if he continues?
Well, I wasn't offended by his comment, but if you were, I'm sorry. Mr. Manning, please refrain. But go ahead and finish, Mr.
I was not offended by any means. I was distracted. So it's not about offense, it's about being distracted.
All right, well, go ahead and continue.
Thank you. So I approach this from a financial aspect, and with the 1.763 total budget spend for the rec center, $910,000 being personnel, $566,000 in capital, $288,000 in operating. With this addition, if it were to pass at $8 million in financing yet to be known, what interest rates, terms, or any of that's available, what projections have any of you done to perform or will be performing for expected revenue increases from this $8 million addition, expected expense increases for additional personnel, grounds upkeeping, and whatnot? Have you made it down that line yet? As in addition to the bid costs, we know there's other costs that go along with it, one of which will be financing, one of which will be personnel, and one of which will be operating. Do you have some analysis of those things yet?
Well, as far as the maintenance of it, the synthetic turf does help tremendously with the maintenance, as far as not having to mow it on a regular basis. As far as the predictions and projections of rental, I mean, that's obviously the field rentals would be daily out there on multi-purpose fields for the sports. I would like to add that a complex like this is funded with revenue from half-cent sales tax, from TDC portions that the city gets from the county. There's different funding sources to be able to utilize for this. So, and recreation, as everybody probably realizes, it's not a money maker. It's a quality of life. So.
Right, and I participated in a similar study up in Crestview on their rec center, and they were, stating other similar claims. But if it's a quality of life, my question, I guess, is how much does that cost? Because if the sky's the limit, then we could build a stadium, right? I mean, I know you're not going to build a stadium. I did see that there were going to be covered, pickleball courts and all. So it's just so foreign to me, I guess, in that, you got to pay for, there's a quality of life associated with this over there. We just don't know what the actual cost is yet. We're not even close because we don't know what financing options are going to be available. I've not seen or heard if there are going to be they're going to have to be additional personnel related to an $8 million facility build, right? So the revenue is going to have to, well, I say the revenue is going to have to go up to cover those personnel and operating. It really doesn't, because we've got 1.76 million spent with only 370. So the quality of life expense of the existing rec center is $1.4 million to taxpayers, whether it's they're paying a 50-cent sales tax or property tax revenues or any other sources that fund it. It's about $1.4 million for the existing facility is that expense. Is that correct? I mean, you follow me there? Well, it was 370 in revenue if I called it.
Well, what you're looking at in the 1,000 account for revenue, so the parks actually generates revenue as well, rentals and parks and everything like that, so it's not just the 1,000 account, but I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Recreation spread out over different accounts based on if it's the recreation facility, admin, or parks, which is the 1010 account. But yeah, so I mean, so you could look at the TDC does fund and improved expenses, and we've used it the last 2 or 3 years for travel tournaments, funds payroll for those. So that would be utilized for some of the tournaments that are done up at the complex to use for additional hires.
Mr. Mayor?
Gotcha.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
I appreciate you looking at it from a cost perspective. Assuming that this does pass, maybe next time we're presented with this item, there was some numbers that Tiffany sent us a while back with the amount of users that are coming to that facility. You know what I mean? And next time we're seeing this information, whether it's to approve financing or assuming that it passes tonight, back to revenue. I know there's a lot of indirect things that aren't always going to be on this agenda packet, like for an example, sales tax. Kind of going in line with that, we're going to have tourism here. There's going to be white beaches, and we're going to have, but what this really encompasses, I believe, is what kind of tourism, as well as what kind of local quality of life are we trying to solicit. Currently the economy and the property values are going up. There's going to be a time where they're going down. I think this project, even though it may be costly from that perspective, Mr. Walker, over a period of time, we're going to be bringing in some talent, and I don't mean just pickleball talent or baseball talent or those kind of things, but that sports tourism talent. And with getting these kind of people to revisit our environment, revisit our city, revisit our area, that they're staying in the Airbnbs at Mr. Berry's Airbnb house that she has, or the hotel, but whatever lodging, that was a joke.
I know, I got it.
But the amount of users that are going to be coming exclusively because of that facility over the next 20 years, I don't know how to capture the cost. This is a long background to maybe ask this question. Next time we do, assuming that this does pass, with some of that data of the amount of users, the amount of visitors, the amount of folks that are coming to that facility, and the projected amount of users that we may be projecting because of the expansion, I think it really would show just a lot of sales tax revenue that's coming to the community, as well as the TDD additional revenue because of this project, that would help kind of respond to some of your good questions about the cost as well as the future revenue that's coming in. But thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berry.
Speaking of tournaments, as I get to know the pickleball players, the real serious pickleball players that like tournaments, will we be inviting tournaments such as out-of-town tournaments playing there at the pickleball courts, especially those with the covered and I told them no lobbing the ball, no complaining when you lob the ball into the covering. So that would be another source of revenue, from what I understand.
It is.
Okay.
Any other comments from council, questions from council?
I do thank Councilman Schmidt for continuing to engage in the conversation, because I just love conversations up here. It helps me, think about my concerns, financial, taxpayers, future revenue. What are those revenues coming into the community? And I had a conversation with a gentleman who was in favor of, is this the place that's got 13 pickleball courts? Is this the place?
Yes.
Okay. So he was speaking in favor of it, and he's a friend, and we were going back and forth and all, and he's like, well, I really do a lot of revenue, generate a lot of revenue, and And I'm thinking, trying to not trying to be, I am one. I'm thinking from a taxpayer standpoint, I'm like, well, what does that get me? I get more traffic. When the people come in, whether they're coming from Destin or coming from elsewhere, I get more traffic. I probably have to have a little bit bigger government, just to, whether it's traffic enforcement or those people that are coming in, or new hotel. What I see from this is, and it's really my rub, is that what I really see it doing is generating more revenue for the city, which I'm not going to say is good, bad, or indifferent. It's more revenue, but it's not being offset to taxpayers. So it's like, well, woo, we're getting more revenue, and I'm a taxpayer. I'm like, well, does it do anything for me? Are my property taxes lower because we got an additional source of revenue? And so far the answer has been, and I've got a couple things we've all talked about here through a number of years, and it's revenue increase, revenue increase, revenue increase. And then, when I'd like to look towards reducing the tax burden on property owners, for example, it's not being given back to them. So I'm like, well, what's the purpose for a taxpayer? What's the purpose of generating more revenue? It's not doing anything for them. So I love sports. I think the value, and I know when you and I spoke about this before I was ever seated, I love sports. I love the coaching. I love what kids learn from it, competition, sportsmanship. It's incredible. I grew up a little bit different, and it wasn't all city sponsored. It was other leagues.
Mr. Walker, now I have to get you around to where's the question, because we're
How long,
rambling. We're
Mr.
rambling.
Mayor, how long, and I'm not need to ask Ms. Cobb this, how long am I allowed to speak before I have to ask a question?
Well, that is up to the chair of the meeting, which is the mayor.
Yeah. And we've gotten to the point where it's a ramble. I'm sorry, sir.
Mr. Schmidt, did you find my conversation as rambling or helpful?
He's presiding over the meeting.
Yeah.
So is there a question? Is there a question?
I'm sure I was going somewhere with one.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The residents will be able to use, the taxpayers will be able to use this facility, right?
Absolutely.
That's all.
There's a quality of life issue. All right, thank you. All right. If there's a question, I'm going to entertain it. If not, sir, we're going to move on.
I'm just trying to figure out how long am I able to speak in the future before I have to ask a question.
There's not a hard and fast rule on that, but the mayor, as the chair of the meeting, can use discretion.
Yes, and I appreciate your discretion there. I don't know that I actually had a question, but.
Right. Okay. Anyway, thank you. So anyone else from council have questions at this point? If not, anyone from the public wish to speak on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Michael Macchia. I'm from Empire Builders. We were a low bidder for this project. I'm here to respectfully talk about, why the bid was rejected. We seem to have met all the criteria, qualifications in your invitation to bid. I understand that the county has the right to, or the city has the right to waive any bid. But I also understand that the artificial turf was very important to you guys. Some of the other criteria that was involved was wetlands on that site, and the fact that the site was built on an old landfill. Both of those items we have hands-on experience for. In addition to that, while our experience may not be in athletic fields, we got some of the more experienced subcontractors in this area to do the work. So us as general contractors, we typically manage the project, make sure subs come to the job, and we pick the right subs to do the right task. The site contractor, the turf contractor, and the landscaper are all from the Fort Walton area. We happen to be out of Pensacola. My staff and I put numerous hours to this project. We don't take a lot of work every year. We take maybe 3 jobs a year, manage them. Every job is personal to us.
we assembled what I think is a pretty good subcontractor team to build this project. We've never brought a project in on time, and it's always on budget. Some of the recreational facilities we built an archery range in Pensacola. That was built on an old landfill. We did the Women's Veterans Memorial Park right on the other side of the bridge, and we've done a state park in Gulf Shores, Alabama. In addition to us being low, and it was only about $90,000, which is, a job that size is, like 1%. Line 30 of the bid sheet shows that Empire Builders included a pickleball structure that came out in addendum 4 at a $500,000 value, where our competition didn't include them. He included a number with a not to exceed contract attached to it based on, I guess, whatever engineering or whatever the city would pick out. Now, the city did spec what shade structures to use, and those are the ones we plugged in as our bid. So all I ask is that the board reconsiders my offer, and if not, we just suck it up and move on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Minnick, 106 Wayne Circle. Mr. Mayor, I apologize to you and most of the council, because when I was on city council, we actually went by parliamentary procedure. And during the question time, it was time for questions instead of debate. And I see that one of your councilmen always has a tendency to show that he doesn't really do any research before he came to the council. And then he goes on and on with debate during the question time. So it's a little bit difficult for me. That's why I don't come to city council meetings anymore. So, 30 seconds into that, I'm opposed to this right now. And I think it's a good project. But I think any time right now that you get into a financial situation where you need to borrow money, it should be for your city hall. Because that's what the city needs most right now, is a new city hall. You've got people that get sick to work in this city hall. You've just gone through the mold eradication. City hall is what we need to finance right now. And I know that this is a great project, but I think city hall should take priority. And I've advocated that as well as others for a while. I hate to go against Mr. Peters on anything, but I think city hall should take a priority.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak on this subject?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Angela Morris with Bear General Contractors. I wanted to simply introduce myself. We're here if you have questions. We've been doing site work and courts and other vertical work for a number of years, and so that is our wheelhouse. And we'll just look forward to the opportunity and respect your vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
Since you offered for the questions, will you be utilizing local contractors? Michael, I've lost your last name, I apologize, from Empire. Thank you for being here also. Mentioned that he had local Fort Walton Beach subcontractors.
That is our intention, to use as many local contractors as subcontractors as possible, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this?
And Mayor, and PRM is here for any financial questions that you may have as far as interest loans, the debt service journey. They made the drive here for the meeting.
All right.
If anybody has any questions for them.
Mr. Jeter.
Finance question, but back to Nicole. What was the original cost of the rec center years ago? Was it 8 million?
8.5, 9 million.
Yeah. And what's left on that debt schedule?
So we have 3 annual payments and a $3 million balloon payment, but, and Jeremy can speak to this as well, we kind of looked at a bunch of different options about maybe combining this with that loan and paying that loan off. That loan is like 2.68%, so we kind of want to let that loan ride out because the interest rate is so low. We're earning about between 5.2 and 5.5% in the bank account right now where the cash is, so cash is king right now.
Ms. Neighbors, could you tell us what's the revenue of the tournaments that come through the rec center?
No. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, the tournaments, I mean, there's a fee structure for field rental and tournament rental, and that's in the comprehensive fee schedule that we have. They generate, this summer generated probably anywhere from probably $60,000 to $80,000 just at the tournament.
We can pull the numbers for you for sure. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. And is there other revenue that we're obtaining other than just the tournaments, but other revenue also?
We do. Again, we get a yearly funding from the TDC. We have 12.5% with that. We also have the half cent surtax that can be utilized for that. As well as some of you recall, the sale of the fairgrounds was brought up when that was originally sold, would be utilized for this property as a possibility.
Mr. Jeter.
So back to my original question, and Mr. Minnick is correct, we need a new city hall, but, and saying what Jeff is saying there too, this is $8 million project, we just did one, that debt schedule is getting ready to fall off. Just using whole numbers in my head, we sold the fairgrounds for $4 million. You obviously always want to take real estate money and transfer it to another piece of real estate. We've got half-cent sales tax. We've got TDC funds of $2 to $2.5 million. So yeah, we could pay for this project. We're probably going to do it a smarter way and let our money make money and finance some of it. But we haven't. Will any of this, to answer Mike's question, will this prohibit us from being able to build a city hall?
I mean, that just kind of depends on a multitude of factors, what happens in the next year or two with revenues and the election and all the different things. And, you know, I can't project what's going to happen in the future. Right now, everything is good. What's going to happen next year, I can't project.
But some of that could change whether we build the sports complex or not. I mean, if we didn't even build a sports complex, something drastic could so happen that could adjust City Hall. But this one specific project, taking away all the outside factors, is not going to stop us from being able to complete that. Should.
It should.
Correct. Should.
Yeah, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may, Jeremy Neathfield with PFM, I've been working with the city for a while, so happy to be back. And just to provide some context on the analysis, that balloon payment, there's a portion of cash that's set aside. So we've looked at some alternatives for enhancing that cash to get to where that balloon payment is sufficient in earning money. But there are several different options to consider. And y'all will be presented with that plan of finance and that recommendation at the appropriate time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Barnes, you got a statement to be read from Mr. Smith.
I do.
For your time.
So on the Recreation Center expansion, this project is 3 years in the making. Quality of life is consistently one of the highest strategic priorities we have, and this project is a prime example of that. I believe this project will be a great benefit to our residents, and I am in full support of it.
Thank you, ma'am.
I apologize, I should have asked this to you before, but so staff's recommendation is to approve a contractor tonight, requesting or approving you to have the authority to approve change orders up to 10%. But the third, I would assume that we're directing you to explore the options to pay for this recreation facility and come back to us in a meeting or two that would include PRM or another entity or cash or some other revenue source. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we would authorize you to enter into an agreement subject to council approving the funding of that project.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Mr. Waddle.
I think mine will be to Nicole there. I looked at the revenue and expense on that, on the proposed budget at 370. Does that include that, a payment towards that pay down? Was that included in there, or is that on a separate somewhere else?
The payment of the.
So I was just, the expenditures listed on the current budget had 910,000 for personnel, 566 for capital improvements, and 300-ish for operating.
So in the capital improvements is where the loan payment is in there. So
Okay, yes, got it. It's in that one. Okay.
It's kind of bundled weird on the software.
Because they didn't break it out. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, maybe we get a motion.
Mayor, so move staff recommendation. Second.
And Mr. Algo?
It was.
Been moved by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Allegretto to award ITB 24009 for the Preston Hood Athletic Complex expansion to Bear General Contractors in the amount of $8,062,107.15 for the construction of the expansion of the Preston Hood Athletic Complex. Other comments?
Yes, sir. Yep, about 6 years ago, we tasked staff to bring us back some properties to surplus and to evaluate. This was one that got a lot of attention. Multiple applicants, trying to go after it and do certain things with it. And I'm very glad, one of the applicants said, if we don't do anything with it, hold on to it. Because it was a very, very, very close vote that night. I think it was 4-3 on what to do with it. I strongly encourage and hope that we will get behind and support this because of a lot of the things that were said, specifically just the quality of life. I know that's a phrase that's used a lot, but the park and recs that we do inside the city of Fort Walton Beach is amazing. And I think this type of environment, this type of culture that we're building, assuming that it passes, is not only just attracting, again, the sports talent, but talent of folks both local and that come afar to view this area, to be a part of this area, some for the first time that are coming to the, let's call it Emerald Coast. And we want to attract that talent, and we want them spending money, both locals as well as folks that are coming here, because the traffic will be here no matter what. Do we want the Little Caesars $5 hot and ready folks? Or do we want the folks that no matter what race, what religion, what creed, they're spending money, traveling with their family, and I'm down with that. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, sir. Any other comment, Mr. Allegretto?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. And as someone who that night, however many years ago it was, that was on the opposite side of that vote that you were referencing when it was 4-3, and we were talking about should we sell this to a car dealer, and I was pretty adamant at the time that was the right move, and I'm pretty adamant right now that would have been a foolish decision. So you live and learn, man. You get these experiences and you learn more about what people want in this city, what people expect to see, and what improves our quality of life. And while it would have improved our city revenue certainly, and it's an old dump site, all the things that were brought up in those meetings and discussions, and the cost is high. And I don't disagree with what Mr. Minnick said, and I think it's an important point that we not lose focus of the fact that this building desperately needs replaced, that City Hall desperately needs replaced, and it's been put off for far too long. But I don't want that to get in the way of this, and this is something that does increase the quality of life of our residents, of our visitors, of our businesses. This is something that encourages more businesses in this community, and I love that. As somebody who's used the facilities at Preston Hood many times, I don't mean the restroom, I mean the actual fields. Or probably both, if you're being honest. It's a really fantastic complex, and when you go visit other cities and you see what they've got versus what we've got, some have better, for sure. But we've got a great facility, and if we can expand it and make it bigger and better, our residents are going to get a lot out of that, whether you use them or not. Your friends, your family, people you know are going to be using this complex. So I'm really glad that I was outvoted a few years back by everyone that clearly had a better vision of the future than I did at that point. And I'm happy to support this today. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Meade?
Very specifically to this, I want to back up and basically talk to you about a little bit of one of my experiences. But after the rec facility was first built, local hotel owner came to me and said, "Y'all should tax me more." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I know I've repeated this, but he said the rec facility that was built has brought so much revenue, so many new people to the city that would have never come here. He said, "John, on Tuesdays, people are coming to the city when nothing was happening before." So I know that's not why we're doing it, but there's more things that I see on a daily basis that are happening here. But to the investment and return on investment, financial wise, quite a few years ago, I struggled with a golf course. for many years. It was its own enterprise fund, and then we moved it from an enterprise fund into the general fund. Well, why do we do that? It's because it lost so much money every year. And so I kept, as a small business owner, I kept saying, why are we running a business if we're losing money? And the answer that I kept getting over and over is recreation doesn't make money, which was kind of hard to wrap my head around, just because it was its own enterprise fund, and we always subsidized it, and then we shifted it to the general fund to continue to subsidize it for a number of reasons. And so we were faced with some of those meetings. This is the time, if we don't want to be in the golf course business, we need to do it. And we didn't. We kept the golf course. And I think it's a great thing that we did. Granted, a lot of people outside the city and within city residents use it, but it gets used, and it is a nice amenity that we have that's great for the city. That's what I see here. I don't see your typical return on investment as far as a percentage, and I know that's not what you're exactly saying, but in general, we're spending a lot of money. What are we getting out of it? And what I see us getting out of it is this amenity that no one can take from us. And you know, if somebody gave us this much money for it, it would be spent so quickly on other things we wouldn't even know where. Well, not literally, but figuratively. And so we will have this moving forward. The youth, the adults, and I will support it. I will obviously this will all be subject to how do we pay for it. So that's something to come. But to your point, or one of your points, and I think it's very well made and taken, that I don't see it from, because I don't think we can. I don't think we can charge to exactly pay for it. Charge the same or actually get a rate of return. I think it's something that as a policy, from my perspective as a policy, I want to see the expansion of the recreation facility. Does that make any sense?
It made a lot of sense. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about it. The golf course was one that, before being elected myself, and Travis was definitely spearheading up some inquiries into it and kind of filling me in on the previous enterprise fund versus now over into the general fund, losses and revenue, and then the whole Eglin Air Force Base lease of the land and requirements of all that. And so, one of my things back then, and in the for what it's worth category, I said, well, why can't we do both? Relieve taxpayers of the loss. At the time, I think we were having a couple of $1 million a year losses on it. And I said, well, why don't we lease the grounds out to a golf course management firm that takes the risk and pays us a land lease, and we make a $3 or $4 million swing on taxpayers. That's the way I approached it. I know that's not been brought up, discussed, and there's not a motion being made for that, but it's an interesting way to look at the private sector providing services to the people outside of taxpayers' expenses. So I hear tonight a consensus growing that we're probably going to do both an expansion of rec center somewhere in the $8 million range, maybe more before it's all said and done, and then we're probably going to need a $15 or $20 million courthouse. And of course, I've got some different thoughts on how a courthouse might come together, but it sounds like we're moving towards both of those, and that's a $25 million swing here in the next little bit. I don't know when that's going to be, but it's a potential $25 million swing. So I think I do agree with Mr. Minnick. I'd probably put this secondary if it came to spending taxpayers' monies, but that's me and Mr. Minnick apparently. So thank you for taking the time.
As we navigate through this, I don't think the radio company or Smith Ironworks is going away anytime soon. I know we have that lease and things like that, but if those organizations ever approach and they're looking to relocate or things like that, I don't know the consensus for the rest of the board, but if those parcels are looking to relocate, I would be supportive of continuing to expand this footprint for these services.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Mr. Jeter?
Yes, sir. I will definitely be supporting it. I would support future expansion on those places too. But my kid right now is doing a book report, and it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Kids, and it's called Win-Win. And I just couldn't help but think of that book and go, that's exactly what this project is. It's a win-win. It's a win for the residents. It's a win for the community, even though we can use tourist money and other things to pay for it. And I got to put on my TDC hat here. I know you're not going to like it, but it's a win for the community for like generations to come. Like Councilman Schmidt said, you're getting kids down here outdoors, playing sports, families, spending money. Guess where that kid's going to go vacation, take his kids 20 years from now? That park where he won that championship. They're coming right back here. So you can't put a value, you can't put a dollar. You can give us a report, but you can't put a value on actually what it does for the community. You might be able to say how much money it brought in, but it's going to bring it in for so many years and help the community so much. And like Councilman Bean said, it helps so many businesses. It helps Parlor Donuts. It helps hotels. It helps Airbnbs. It helps the community so much that I don't think you can put a value on. So it's 100% win-win. I'll be supporting it, and I'd support future expansion.
Mr. Berry?
In addition to that, not just the kids, not just the youngsters, this is, September is National Senior Center month. And I'm a senior. And the snowbirds that come down here every year, they spend a lot of money here. And they use our recreation center. Believe me, I live right there. They are here. We thank you, Jeff, for going down to USTA and M3 Sports and navigating the visitors there. And the local people said, thank you, thank you, thank you. So they have their tournaments with their pickleball courts down there. Win-win. So that was good that we did this. So it's not just the children, it's not just the adults, but it's our seniors that bring it in all year long too. So yeah, thank you.
Council, no further comments? Please vote. And it does pass 5 to 1. Thank you, Council. And that'll bring us to City Manager reports. Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few. Our next council meeting will be Tuesday, September 24th, and it's the same setup as today. It'll be a 4 o'clock regular meeting, followed by the 6 o'clock second hearing of the budget, where council will set the final millage rate in the budget hearing, the second one. So again, that's Tuesday, September 24th. We've got some pictures from this we'll get out, but I would like to announce we've got we hired an employee at the cemetery named Alexis Atkinson on September the 4th last week. Yesterday, she was at work, been there 3 or 4 days. She was at work, a car comes flying in there. The passenger had overdosed, fallen out of the car on her way to dying. Alexis ran to her car and got 2 cans of Narcan and saved the girl's life.
Wow.
Unbelievable. We presented her, Devin and I went over there today, we presented her with a coin and took some pictures, which, I mean, a coin, she saved somebody's life, but that just really, just a city employee, been here 4 days.
Wow.
Very, very cool. So let that one sink in. But we also, just on another cool note, Yard of the Month, we've got David and Neville Larson, 205 Bradley, that's in Gardner's Mills Drive. That is September Yard of the Month. And I believe that we've got the fitness court cover is up, the fitness court is done, and the restroom at Jet Homes. I know you probably were going to say that, but I'll let Mr. take that. That's
yes.
it, Mayor.
Thank you. Just a minute. Ms. Cobb, City Attorney reports.
I do not have anything, thank you.
All right. Now we're back around to council final comments, and we start with you, Mr. Walker.
Nothing to add, thank you.
All right, Mr. Elder. Mr. Berry.
Yes, I have a couple of things to say. The bathrooms at Jet Drive have finally arrived, and we're excited about that. The people are the pickleball players are very, very excited. They want to know what the combination is to the doors. And no, I do not want a plaque with my name on it. Because...
Let's do it.
No, for a good time. I had to say it. I had to say, you know, but they are very appreciative and they're excited about it. And I had to say, don't drink the water just yet. We got to flush. Well, no, we have to. I said, you have a thing over there, a spigot over there, the clean water. So, but they are excited about it. And they said, thank you. And I appreciate everyone's work on towards this bathroom. And it's nice. It's nice. It's ADA compatible. Grab bars and all the other stuff. They even have a thing that you can put your water bottle there to dispense clean water, not just a faucet like this here. So they really appreciate that. On another note, Ms. Kopp, would you please read the Sunshine Law? There was an incident where the Sunshine Law might have been attempted to be broken this past week.
Well, I'll just say generally that I'll just give a reminder to the council, and that is if there is any city business between the two of you, between two or more of you, it would need to be discussed in a public meeting and not outside of a public meeting. If anyone has questions on that, let me know. And Mr. Berry, I will have individual conversations as needed.
Thank you very much. Because there was an attempt to break the Sunshine Law during this past week between me and another person on the dais, and I wanted that to be reminded. Thank you very much.
Good. Mr. Jeter.
The Coral Trail, is that still progressing? I thought about it earlier when Councilman Meade talked about this new intersection, the rec center, and the development on Robinwood. There's no snags or no holdups. It's still. Or obviously there's always snags and holdups, but there's nothing stopped it yet.
So funny you mentioned that. We recently just had our pre-app with DEP after we had some conceptual drawings and we had for the survey. It does got to go through the Corps because there will be some wetland impacts on that end. That's probably going to be your biggest, uncertainty at that point, but no, it's still progressing on that side.
Okay, 10-4. It'll tie in nice to that new intersection, everything else over there, so it reminded me of it earlier. That's all.
All right. Mr. Meade.
Nothing further.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, just want to highlight real quick. Lately, I've been dealing more with the Park and Recs department more than other departments, and I just want to say, Tiffany, how just your professionalism is noticed. A lot of times we deal with residents that champion or want to do different feel-good projects or local projects, and it means a lot to them. And then after getting done with the project, they still are vested or they still have some emotions on different things they want to make it better or do. And I'm sure it makes it very challenging on the priorities and the times of all the other projects you have going on and still dealing with the public. But just wanted to take a moment to highlight that because it's not always easy dealing with customers and customer service. I just want to highlight your professionalism, so thank you very much. And then as far as connectivity goes, when Councilman Jeter just mentioned that, what came to my mind was, and again, Mr. Payne, it might be your department again, but where are we with any connectivity? We had that traffic study at Tijuana Flats about a year ago, those kind of things. I know the state didn't fund our legislative request funding for that design of Hollywood and those kind of things, but where are we at with that study and doing programs or taking some action based off of that study's data?
Yeah, so as it goes in the next meeting, I think a couple of those items are in the budget. First, you have the design for maybe a road diet on Hollywood Boulevard with the roundabout and everything else. There's money in half cent for that, and as well as if you do remember at the Tijuana Flats wrap up that we had short-term stuff we could just signage and stuff like that we could fill. We had midterm, which would be what we defined as budgeted for next year, right? Some things are a little bit cost more than to just eat it during the year. And then long term would be that Hollywood corridor. So moving into the budget, not to unwrap too much of that, but you have the Hollywood Boulevard design engineering in there, and then you also have a separate CIP to handle the speed feedback signs, the things, the infrastructure I know Nick loves the speed feedback signs, but those, I think the Ferry Park study identified 7, right? We usually have done 1 or 2. So there's a capital improvement program to do those things and start addressing some of those mediums.
And from that study that's presented a lot of this data on safety, let's call that Hollywood east to west, at that same junction, that same area, is there any, from a staff level, and there may have already been some conceptual designs done, but any, let's call it north-south connectability that kind of runs through that east to west?
There is from Hollywood to Uptown. I think there's a page exhibit in there that would be looked at more. And constructability is just lines on the paper. The southern portion will probably play into the next traffic study, the next neighborhood traffic study that we have. That is the Elliott Point neighborhood, not to be confused with where Elliott Point School is, but that southeast portion to connect down with the connectivity to New Bridge and all that going through. So
That's awesome. So is that included in this 25
yes.
budget, that north-south as well?
Three separate items.
Thank you, sir. That's all I got, Mr. Mayor.
Sure. Mr. Meade.
Mr. Payne, I'm sorry. So I'm sure this is a question that some of us have been asked or we've seen maybe, but on my street alone where I live, there's, I think I counted 6 different patches where they were burying the, what I assume is fiber optics cables across the street. And they would cut the holes, pour what appears to be just pour some asphalt in there. Over the course of a couple of weeks, it's sunken in. Are you seeing that other areas, other neighborhoods? It just seems as if I was trying to tap into a new sewer line or water line and I had to go into the street, the city would require me to take all sort of precautions. I'm just curious how that interacts with what they're doing.
Sure, that's a good question. So obviously those aren't identified, I would say, on their permitting drawings and things like that. If they are doing asphalt patches and they're unsuitable or I'm not sure. They're supposed to be closed out from us on each large scale permit that we have. So obviously we don't want to try to repair their patches on that end. But there is a couple of substantial areas that we've had where like we just paved a new road, right? And we had an issue that already needs to be fixed because of one of their construction snafus or means and methods. So if there is any issue like that, obviously there's lots of streets, but we would be glad to say crack the whip, but at least hold them accountable for that because if they're unsuitable, then they're unsuitable.
So for the public who's here watching this or for everybody else, would we go to the city's website and report it through there to the city, or what's the best way to do it?
I would say there's multiple means and methods. Preferably, I always like when someone calls the front office, but if they want to do the phone, they can do the phone. If they want to email, they can do the email. We all will get it on that end.
Thank you.
Would see-click fix work in this type of situation?
That's a route too on that end.
Thank you. Back around to me. It's 6:22. Let's take I'm going to end this meeting and we'll start the next meeting at 6:30. We're adjourned.
All right.